question is asking us to figure out how many jars of each size. Okay, so we have two unknowns. Let's set up our variables. Okay, do you want to just use x and y? So let x represent what? What's the first piece of information we have to find?
Jars of 250 grams.
Good. Jars that hold 250 grams of what?
250 grams of almond butter.
Of almond butter. And then y can represent
500 grams.
the jars that hold 500 grams.
Almond butter.
Okay, so we're trying to figure out the number of jars, right? How many jars are they going to use of the 250 gram jars and how many of the 500 gram jars? Sorry. So we're told that there's a total of 511 jars. What else are we told? Okay, so we're also told the total number of kilograms of the almond butter that they're going to be storing in the jars. So it's 100, what is it? 0.5 kilograms. Now, there was an extra step to this. Maybe that's because in this question, the total is given in kilograms, but the unit of the jars is grams. So what should you do with this information here? Okay, we want to convert this into the same unit as what the jar holds so that we can figure out how many jars are going to be filled up. Well, 1,000 grams equals 1 kilogram. So 186.5 kilograms. How many grams is that? We want to multiply this by 1,000, right? And we get 186,500 grams. Okay, so now that we've listed all the information given, we need to come up with two equations. Well, x represents the number of jars that hold 250 grams and y represent the other jars. All together, we have a total of 511 jars. What could be your first equation? First equation can be x plus y equals 511. We have a certain number of the first kinds of jars and the second kind. Altogether, there's 511 jars. I know that I have a total of 186,500 grams that I can store. This is storage space of almond butter. Some of it's going to go into this jar and some of it into this jar. For each number of the first jar, it holds 250 grams. For each of the second jar, it holds 500 grams. Altogether, we can hold a total of 186,500 grams. So we need to come up with the second equation. Yep.
250x plus 500.
Okay, good. So we have the second equation, 250x. So for each jar, I would multiply by 250 to figure out how many grams it holds, plus the second jar holds 500 grams. So for each of the second jar, we need to know the total number of grams it's going to hold. And altogether, we have 186,500 grams of almond butter. So we can solve by substitution or elimination. A lot of you were saying that you want to choose substitution, maybe because it's easier to isolate one of these variables. So which variable are you going to isolate? Y. So y equals 511 minus x. We're going to take that, plug it in for y. So let's do that here. So we have 250x plus 500. Y is 511 equals 186,500. We need to use distributive property to expand this. 250x plus, what's 500 times 511? 255,500. Then 500 times x is negative 500x equals 186,500. Combine like terms. 250x take away 500x. What is it? Negative 250x equals, what is 186,500 take away, because we need to get rid of that, 255,500 negative 69,000. We need to isolate x, divide both sides by negative 250, and we end up with positive 276. We know x, Well, we can use either of these equations to find y. We can also use this equation. This represents the exact same thing, right? Why not use that? Because y is already isolated. Y is equal to 511 take away x. Well, we just figured out that x was 276. So 511 take away 276, what is it? What does y equal? 35. 235. The question asks you to find how many jars of each size. Go back to your original statements. X is the number of jars that hold 250 grams, and Y is the number of jars that hold 500 grams. So now we can answer that question. He has 276 jars that hold 250 grams of almond butter, and then he has 235 jars that hold 500 grams of almond butter.
Made with Doodlecast Pro.